I'm Barbara Chai with the Wall Street Journal Speakeasy, and we're here today with Katori Hall, playwright of Kurt Village. Thanks for joining us today, Katori.
Thanks for having me.
So let's talk about your new play, which is opening this week at the Romulus Linney Courtyard Theater, part of the new Pershing Square Signature Center. How did you get the idea to write Hurt Village?
Well, I'm a native Memphian, and Hurt Village is actually based on a real-life housing project that was demolished in 2002. So I grew up, as this young girl in Memphis, and I would hear the stories about Hurt Village and, oh, it's a bad place to go. It's a really, really dangerous project. But as I grew older, I began to learn, the history of the place. It was built in 1953, and it was a housing project built specifically for white immigrants. Like, even if you look back in the commercial appeal, they're like, this housing project is for white immigrants. But, as the years passed and that particular area of downtown Memphis became more dilapidated, the demographic changed, and around probably, I would say, even the early 1970s, it became predominantly African American. And of course, after Dr. King was shot, that particular section of town just, went down because millions and millions of dollars of damage happened after the riots. And so it was just kind of, dismissed. It became very blighted, and unfortunately, it became a center for the drug trade in Memphis, a lot of crime, a lot of poverty. And as a matter of fact, Hurt Village resided in the third poorest zip code in the entire nation. So, I grew up, playing with kids from Hurt Village, playing from kids from other parts of this, in other housing projects, Lamar Terrace, because my grandmother lived in that particular area. And so I always wondered how I would have turned out if I would have lived in that particular given circumstance. And so I just decided that I was going to write a play that really looked at the history and looked at, the constraints that concentrated poverty has on a community.
Mm-hmm. You say that you were thinking about how you might have grown up in that project. Is the protagonist of the play, the 13-year-old, the great actress playing her?
It's me. It's my mini-me.
Your mini-you.
Definitely. Cookie is this amazing, extremely smart, precocious 13-year-old girl. She wants to be a rapper, but she actually also aspires to be a flight attendant as well. She's a huge dreamer, and she's like the rose growing out of concrete. A lot of community, a lot of the people in the community really see that she is something special, and I definitely would say, I put myself, as Cookie, if I would have grew up in Hurt Village, how I would have been in terms of relating to my grandmother or my mother, because, she grows up looking at a lot of harsh things. It's a harsh reality that she grows up in, but despite it all, she is a dreamer and she has hope.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about the brand new theater that you're breaking in. It's also called the Linney. This is the inaugural season at the Signature Center, and your play is the first one being performed at the Linney. And it's it has an alley configuration, it's an incredible set. How was that experience to literally break in a new theater?
Well, there were some challenges. We were in tech for about a week and everything was working perfectly well. First preview, the first act, the sound dies. So, we have our actors running around, trying to make up extra sound. But, we learned something very important. We learned that, stripped down, this play is powerful. You don't even need all the bells and whistles. The words speak for themselves. So that was an amazing moment of first preview in front of a paying audience to have. But, Jim Houghton, the artistic director, came at intermission, was like, "You guys are missing a very important element. Come back next time. We'll get you in for free so you can get the rest of it." But that's it's part of breaking in a new space. We also had to deal with one of the smoke detectors beeping a lot during the second act of the next day. But we have amazing people working at the theater, and they nip those problems in the bud. And so we were the guinea pig, but we've broken in the space, and now it's ready for Athol when he comes in for I think it's in My Children, My Africa is the next play in that space.
Well, that leads into my next question, because in the inaugural season, a huge deal, Signature Theater has obviously shown its support of you, Athol Fugard, and Edward Albee. I mean, how is it to be part of that lineup?
Okay, so it's freaking mind-blowing to, you know, be rehearsing and, you know, you come out of the door and there's Mr. Fugard, you know, eating cookies on his break. And you can go up to him and he's so open and lovely and so embracing. As a matter of fact, you know, he ended up coming over and hugging me. You know, he was touring the space, you know, they were checking it out for his next play, and he was just so supportive, and he was like, you know, this, don't be scared, don't be scared. But, you know, he got that South African accent, so. I'm like, what'd you say? No, I just playing. But he was like, don't be scared. It's okay to be nervous, but you know, you got this, you got this. So it was really, really beautiful. And I've actually met Mr. Albee before, but we haven't had a chance to connect. But I see him going into, you know, the end stage over there. So, you know, it's really beautiful. I feel so honored to be in such amazing, amazing company.
And we know that Kenneth Lonergan just saw your play the other day. It's almost like class. You're bumping into your friends and classmates. We're all distinguished playwrights.
And you know, I feel like, you know, when they embrace me, it's like it's showing me that they feel like there's room for all of us. You know, all of these stories deserve to be told. Your story is important. Our story is important. You deserve to be here. So it's been a beautiful experience.
Many different voices. And as part of the support too, we have a playbill from the Hurt Village, and unlike most other plays, this one has the playwright on the cover instead of the cast. But it's also a sign of Signature's dedication to the playwright, you said. Yeah.
Very playwright centered. Like, I've been involved in, I think, every meeting, you know, in terms of the costumes, set, sound. You know, I'm invited to production meetings. I don't go to those. I'm like, okay, that's a little bit too much. But, you know, I'm just extremely, extremely involved. And my director and I, Patricia McGregor, you know, we are, you know, really, really on the same page. We talk every day, sometimes twice a day. And she's just been such an amazing leader getting this play up on its feet.
I saw the other day in the theater there are beautiful homages to other playwrights who were there, and Edward Albee has an entire wall, and there's a lovely quote of his, which I'm paraphrasing here, but it's along the lines of theater is meant to disrupt. And one of the things about your work, and this play in particular, is the language is, of course, not your typical language that people will come to think of on a New York stage. So I was curious what, first of all, the research you did in order to capture that authentic voice or the voice of the Hurt Village, and your feelings about channeling that into art and presenting it to the public.
Well, I believe that rap is poetry. I believe that the way everyday people speak, even if they're talking about very mundane things, it can be lifted and heightened into poetry. And so, unfortunately, historically, the way that people who are from a certain class or from a certain race, the way they speak has not always been represented on stage, but I see the art in it. And for me, the research was kind of just done by osmosis. Growing up in Memphis, you know, hanging out sometimes, you know, in areas near Hurt Village, you know, it's something that sits in your ear. It becomes part of your blood memory. You know, the language is extremely strong. You know, there is a lot of cursing, but they live in a very harsh landscape, so the verbal landscape has to be harsh as well. You know, there is a lot of N-word, there is a lot of B, but if you go up, you know, to Washington Heights, where I live, and you listen to the kids on the street, they say like 25 cuss words within 15 seconds. So I think it's just a very true, authentic representation of the way particularly young people speak, and you know, young people who are coming from a place of struggle. I always say that Hurt Village is the land of hard choices, and when you have to, you know, live in that space, you know, your words have to be bullets, your words have to become armor, your words have to fight for you. It's the only currency you have when you don't have anything in your stomach, when you go to bed hungry at night. So I feel as though it's, to me, you know, I just have to tell the truth, and I have to be true to these characters and to their voice. And yes, I think it definitely disrupts people. People, you know, get offended. People, you know, why are you doing this signature? Why are you doing this signature? But it's so amazing. It's a testament to Jim Houghton and the donors. The donors are like, this is the kind of theater that we want to support. This voice hasn't ever been presented on a New York stage. Let's support it. They deserve to be here. They deserve to be seen, because it's a voice of the invisibles, I say.
I know that in the New Yorker you said that you hated the film The Blind Side.
That quote will follow me forever. Yes, I did. I hated with a passion that could burn a hole through hell because I felt it was just a very slight, superficial surface representation of Hurt Village, particularly because Michael Oher, yes,
was from Hurt Village.
Was from Hurt Village. You know, it was like, oh, the black man is the boogeyman. It's like, no, 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 no. Let's look at context. Let's look at, you know, the history. Let's, you know, provide people the whole story and not just a flash in the pan version of, you know, the Southern hood. You know, these people are people. They have dreams. They have hopes. You know, you take off their skin and there's, you know, a heart beating inside, and that's what we're trying to do with Hurt Village.
Did you write the play sort of in response to The Blind Side, or you
Oh,
had already been working on it?
no, absolutely not. I started writing Hurt Village probably around 2006, as a matter of fact. And like I said, it's a story that's been kind of, you know, scraping in my belly, like, oh, we got to get out, we got to get out. You know, it's something that I've been weirdly working on for a very, very long time, even if I didn't even know it.
So recently you had another production on Broadway,
Yes,
The Mountaintop, starring none other than Samuel Jackson and Angela Bassett. How does that production and working on that differ from working on Hurt Village?
Well, it's funny, you know, it's so different because obviously it's Broadway, there's more at stake. You know, you got to get your $3.1 million back. You got to, you know, you're working with, you know, stars, not just, you know, stars, but starras. So I must say, I may have came into the Mountaintop process with a little trepidation, but oddly, Angela and Sam were very embracing of me. They didn't, you know, look at me as this young playwright. They really wanted to do a new work and supported a new voice. So, you know, in that regard, it was very similar to Signature. But, you know, you do have to deal with, you know, producers coming to you and like, are you going to cut? How many minutes you going to cut off? You know, you have to deal with that, I think, more so on the Broadway level. But, you know, I think the major difference is you're under the radar at Signature, and they say Broadway is playwright centered, and it's not no more. It's actor centered at this point in time because of the economy. But you know, off Broadway, particularly at Signature, it is playwright centered. Absolutely.
One of the things that absolutely strike me after seeing your work, it's so clear that you're very brave and you have a very strong voice. And in the theater world, though, it's typically pretty homogenous. It's rare to have a female playwright. It's even rare to have a black female playwright. So I would just like to know where you channel that strength and confidence from, because you're pioneering.
Ooh, oh, you should talk to my mama. Mama and daddy. Mama Karen May and Daddy LaSalle. Very, very, very strong people, extremely hardworking, you know. When I was a young girl, they moved from this area called Orange Mound, which is similar to Hurt Village area, and they were the first of 3 black families to desegregate this particular neighborhood. They don't care what nobody think about them. They make choices, for their own futures, and they're just amazing, hardworking people, and so I really just get it from them. My family members, I come from a huge well of strength, and my mother grew up picking cotton, so knowing her particular past and knowing the gift that I've been given to be able to sit around and write stories. When my mama at 10 years old was picking cotton, I kind of like take that and go. It's like I have to write. I cannot write.
Well, we hope you continue to write and write strong. Thanks so much for joining us today. We've been talking with Katori Hall. I'm Barbara Chai with the Wall Street Journal.